Good evening, everyone. We'll call to order the regular meeting of the Chisholm City Council for September 23rd, 2020. Margaret, could you take roll call, please?
Councillor Lance.
Here.
Councillor Fountain.
Here.
Councillor Vaki.
Here.
Councillor Varda. Absent. Councillor Campbell.
Here.
Mayor Champa.
Here. I was told Jim will be joining the meeting a little late tonight, but when he gets here, he gets here. Adopt the agenda. Council, we have two people that signed up for public participation. Just to let you know, Lloyd Show and Jim McKean. Lloyd actually showed up first, so he let us know first, so I'll actually have him talk first when we get to him. I'm going to add Stephanie Scrobb, our new EDA director consultant, in between our engineer, our zoning official, and our engineer. An email came across our desks, I believe it was this morning, from Tammy about an addition to that skating shack and some foam. I was looking at adding that under number 3 under her 7C3. I think that'd be about it. So the main thing is that foam addition, that other than reports and public participation. So I'd entertain a motion to adopt the agenda with that one main change, one addition.
I'll make that motion. This is Councillor Campbell.
Is there a second for that?
Support, Councillor Lance.
Bill, I didn't forget anything before we vote, did we?
No, sir.
Okay. All right, Margaret, could you take a vote, please?
Councillor Lance.
Aye.
Councillor Fountain.
Aye.
Councillor Vaki.
Aye.
Councillor Varda. Absent. Councillor Campbell.
Aye.
Mayor Champa.
Aye. Okay, the agenda is adopted. Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Not quite Jim Varda, but I hope it worked. All right. Public participation. First, we got Lloyd Show on the line with us. Good evening, Lloyd.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, go ahead, Lloyd.
Okay. Good evening, Mayor, City Council members, city officials, and attendees. My name is Lloyd. My wife and I moved to this town nearly 17 years ago. First, we rented a place. Then we ended up liking it so much that we made an offer and bought the home where my family and I currently reside. Over the years, my wife and I have built a great life in this town. Due to who I am as a person, I am constantly looking for ways to give back to the community I call home. One of the ways is with my time. I am currently a member in good standing at the Chisholm Fire Department. I've recently joined the Planning and Zoning Committee, and most recently, a COVID fill-in at the ambulance garage. All because I care. That's who I am. I wish to advance, further my career, be better tomorrow than I am today, and do my part to keep this community great. Another way I like to contribute is with my skill set and passion for construction. It was, is, and will continue to be my intention that all the vacant and abandoned properties in this town would finally have purpose again. I'm sure we can all agree that there are some issues with the residential infrastructure in this town. A few years back, I began to notice a lack of affordable, quality housing. Both my degree and background is in construction, so I purchased some vacant lots and started the planning process. I am now a proud owner of 4 city lots on the edge of town with woods on 2 sides. Since purchasing, I have cut the grass regularly, as well as cleaned brush and debris from the previous years of people dumping on this property. During this time, I have exposed chunks of metal, beer cans, dump loads of concrete, and other measurable size piles of yard-type waste. I'm not sure if I have even owned this property for a whole year yet, but I would like the chance to put a structure on it someday. As for now, I just wish to keep some of my things there. At a minimum, I want to make these lots look presentable, and I believe I am doing just that. Recently, my property has come under great scrutiny. Somehow, me simply parking on land that I own seems to have sent shockwaves through the entire community. I apologize. I can assure you that was not my intention. Now I seem to have found myself right in the middle of a weird situation involving many different agencies. Furthermore, I've been experiencing situations that have bordered on harassment. With that being said, I assume the city must have received a copious amount of complaints from both neighbors as well as the passerby. I imagine 100 or 200 complaints, or is it just a handful of the quote unquote concerned citizens? It is my belief that Jim McKean is using the city as leverage to fulfill his agenda. See, Jim used these lots for many years to park all of his junk, and now he is unable to do that. Hence the temper tantrum we are witnessing firsthand. Furthermore, I believe there has been multiple instances of trespassing and tampering with private property. Some individuals on this street have even attempted to follow me home. I have since spoken with the PD, and it seems that these individuals' actions may constitute harassment. Now I'll briefly address the wetland issue. In the last week, I've done some major investigative research. The wetlands in question are actually outside of the Minnesota DNR jurisdiction. All non-public wetlands in the city of Chisholm are governed by the local governing authority, per Don Bavoski. Therefore, I would be working directly with the city of Chisholm officials regarding development. Unfortunately, I haven't had the time, seeing as I just bought this property less than a year ago. The lots are not even in my name yet. I think if you take it at face value, it may seem way different than it actually is. It's only when you dig deeper you find that it's more like kids in a sandbox. Jim has used these lots for many years without paying taxes on them, yet he was too cheap to pay the previous owner what they were asking. That's on him, not my family and I. My closing thoughts. I believe everyone had a chance to see the images I sent to Councilman Lance. These are the houses of what would be my neighbors. These images come from the very neighborhood where my property is located. As you can see, there might be a few other situations on this block that arguably fall into the black hole of nuisance parking and storage. Thank you so much for your time. Sincerely, the other concerned citizen. And that's all, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Lloyd. Council, typically, we're going to talk about this later, but is there any questions that you have of Mr. Show while he's on the line with us? Thank you, Lloyd. If you want, I think you can stay on the line even after your public's over to listen in.
Very good.
We'll be taking it up about halfway through the meeting. We'll be discussing it. Thank you. Next, public participation, we have Jim McKean. Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council members. I moved here 40 years ago, and I built a residence here, raised children, worked at the school. I helped repair the ambulance, police cars when they couldn't have anybody there. My property has been nice and clean. The property across the street, after the road was put in here, 12th Street, I maintained the grass cutting and kept it clean up to the borders of the swamp. I never did store anything there or dump anything there. That is absolutely wrong. My concern is that this land area will become a storage lot of trailers and equipment trailers, boats, and automobiles. So I guess I happen to be the spokesman for the neighborhood here. They came to me with their concerns, so I ended up being the spokesman, got the petition, which is in front of the council tonight, voicing their concerns. It's not only mine. I was willing to work with Mr. Show, but he just refused to talk to me about what he was going to do, and he said he was going to go to all the neighbors and propose his plans for this area, which he never did. So that's why they all came to me, and we all talked about it. So I formed that petition letter, and they signed it in agreement. So I guess I'm not trying to be a bad person about it. It's just that I think a storage lot should actually be down in the industrial park. I mean, there's lots there that they could store stuff and not have to worry about it. This way here, if he fills in the property, it's gonna cause flooding to the neighbors to the east. And that's one of their big concerns, Sandy Bruscorm and Mr. Tansabel. And the fellow across the street, I don't know his name, behind Mr. Tansabel, he was concerned about that also. So I'm not trying to cause problems. We just don't want a storage lot here. It's going to be unsightly. Now, if he puts up a fence, puts it all behind a fence and establishes a driveway, that's probably going to be okay with the neighbors. But until then, I guess it's up to the city council to enforce what laws are there. Thank you very much for your time. And I will wait to hear from the DNR and the St. Louis County. They're going to get back to me on what they figure this property is. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Jim. Council, any questions of Mr. McKean while he's on the line with us still? All right, good. We'll move on. That concludes our public participation. We'll move on to our reports, council reports. We'll start with Councilor Lance. How about we'll start on that end tonight?
No formal report. Is my mic not working?
I hear you.
I can hear you, Adam.
I have no formal report.
Mayor, you're on mute.
That's what's going on. I muted me. We could be so lucky. Trace, you got a report tonight?
Just a real quick one. We conducted interviews last Tuesday for the police department, total of 3 interviews on that day. I believe there was a total of 4 that were interviewed. But that day we did 3. That's all I have.
Thank you. Councilor Vaki report?
Yeah, just a real quick one. So a couple meetings back, I mentioned that the football team and the school were looking at getting internet to the press box up there. I'm happy to report we did find a solution to that. Internet is installed up there, and Ryan Baumgart is going to activate the outlet to make that go live. And then just so everyone knows, the internet up there is going to become a bullet point in the new contract that we have with the school. So whenever Bill's able to set up a meeting for us to meet, we can get that going. But this will just become part of that. That's all I got.
Thank you, Travis. Councilor Fountain report tonight?
No formal report, Mayor.
Okay. Councilor Barta hasn't showed up yet, Bill?
Mayor, he just logged in just as we speak here. Probably connecting to his audio.
I'll give my report then. I just, HRA, we're still battling to get this building torn down. The contractor that was going to tear it down for us doesn't appear to be in business anymore up here. We're chasing him around trying to find out if he's going to do it or if he's going to back out of it. We have our attorney for the HRA working on that. It's frustrating. That's a frustrating one. We thought it should have been down already. What else at the HRA? Our new board member, great board member that we brought on, really seems to be trying to bring up some good things like cell phones, helping with cell phone for the employees. And we start talking about how we're going to do on call with the different employees. And then lastly, we hired another part-time maintenance person up there. So good stuff. I think that's all I got. Councillor Varda, are you on with us now?
Hey, Mr. Mayor, I got a quick question for you.
Go ahead, Councillor.
Regarding, what was that, the cost of taking that building down up at the HRA? It was like $600,000, wasn't it?
No, that was like the cost of the new building, or that was like the new building. It was a lot. It's a lot of money. I don't know what it was, like 15 grand or something like that, or 13 or something like that. But yeah, you think the person would come take it down. It's just excuse after excuse. And there was a excavator on site for a while, and then it just disappeared. So we're trying. We want it gone by winter. That's our goal. So
Maybe that's something we could look at burning down. Has anyone looked at that for training for the fire department? Be a lot
well,
cheaper.
after you guys put all the effort into saving it, it seems kind of counterproductive. Adam, it barely even has a roof. Everything's inside of it, so it would make tough for even a training. So basically, it's a junk pile that needs to get hauled away. So it's that bad. So fortunately, all 4 walls are up and it's boarded up, so nobody's in there in the meantime. And so, yeah. But we're going to get her down. Councillor Varda, are you on with us?
Yes,
You got a report tonight?
just a short report. I want to say good job to the HRA for getting that garage fixed at the Lincoln Apartments. That looks it looks a lot better. That's my report.
Okay, good. Yeah, we did that. All right, we'll move on for the reports. We'll move on. Building official. Andy, report tonight.
No formal report, Mayor. I did just want to make a few additions to a couple things that were addressed under the open forum. Regarding the wetland issue, I did speak with Phil Norwich today, and he's part of the St. Louis Water and Soil Conservation. I did reach out to Mr. Bizarre.
We lost you.
Oh, sorry. What has happened there is Mr. Officer Bazovsky actually, it is a Wetland Conservation Act violation, and a resource protection notification was filed. What happens after that is a TEP panel needs to meet there and actually decide on what was violated, and a report has to be made prior to that. I was told that a meeting was set for hopefully October 1st. So just a little clarification on the wetland situation, that the city of Chisholm doesn't necessarily hold all the cards in deciding that. St. Louis County Soil and Water do, and the DNR. So I just wanted to make that clarification. So we know that.
Thank you.
Yep. Any other questions, I'd be happy to answer. Otherwise, no formal report other than what we have on the agenda.
Council, anything else from Andy?
Mr. Mayor, I have a question for you, actually, or any council person.
Go ahead.
Obviously, I was late. Was there public participation tonight?
Yeah, we had Jim McKean and Lloyd Cho spoke out. Lloyd, you may have heard, has a piece of property down in the 12th Street area, and he's got some trailers and equipment on there. And Mr. McKean is a resident that lives right in the area.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Yep. All right, we'll move on. City engineer. No, sorry, we're putting our new EDA director, Stephanie Scraba, in next. Good evening, Stephanie. Welcome. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks. I'm excited to move forward in this new role with the city and the EDA. I do not have a formal report tonight.
Council, anything for Stephanie other than welcome? We appreciate you coming to help us.
Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Stephanie, have you had an EDA meeting yet since you've been here?
We have not. I have not had my first one yet.
Okay, good. All right, we'll move on. City engineer. Jim, you got a report tonight?
It's a good thing, Mayor, that you put on the roses before you get to the thorns. So, no, I have no formal report, but I would be happy to answer any questions that you or the council might have.
Council, anything for Jim tonight?
I got one thing, Mr. Mayor.
Go ahead, Travis.
Hey, Jim, could you by chance give us some data on, I know we got your 10-year capital improvement, and thank you for that. Could you by chance throw some numbers together for us about what it would look like to do a mill and overlay on a majority of the city?
Yes, I will do that. I'll get it for you next week, Travis.
Anything else, Council? Thank you, Jim. Public Works, Larry. Good evening.
Evening, Mayor, councilors. Nothing on the agenda tonight, so I'll give you my report because it's plenty lengthy at that. So going as we change seasons here in Public Works, a few updates. We're working through the hiring process. I appreciate Councilor Fountain and Administrator Manny's work in our keeping our aggressive hiring schedule. So we're working through that process of hiring two Public Works employees before the winter and our two casual laborers to help us get through this transition. And then please stop me at any time or plenty of time for comments and questions afterwards. We are all... go ahead, Mayor.
I have a question for you.
Go ahead, Councilor Barton.
What's that truck behind you there?
That's one of your new garbage trucks.
Oh, one of my new garbage trucks, eh?
yeah, one of your new garbage trucks. And that's in my report as well. So I'll save it. I'll save the best for last. How about that?
Okay.
All right. So, and then we're hauling salt sand for our winter mix. We get that out of the Jammer Lake pit north of Virginia. So, that takes quite a bit of time. And then sewer water department, we're working on flushing hydrants, and we'll pump those down before the winter weather hits us here. We haven't found any dead or faulty hydrants yet, so that's really good news. We did replace 3 scheduled ones this year already, so that's good. And then we've had a flood of services at the cemetery, and we have had our normal sexton there out on medical leave on and off. So that's we've had a Public Works employee out there helping out. So we're working through those battles out there, but we're providing that service, and everything's been going pretty well actually out of the cemetery. Then our new garbage trucks were delivered to St. Paul, and then they get the finishing touches on there after they come off the production line. It's a pretty basic process when they come off the production line, and then you get your add-ons put on down in St. Paul here, customer requests, things like that. So that was that's in the background. And then and related to that as well, we are on schedule for our October 19th individual cart rollout. And if I could put a little meat and potatoes to it, I like easy numbers. And we estimate right now in the city, we have anywhere between 430 and 450, those 350 gallon containers that everyone's supposed to throw their yellow bags into. We are down to approximately 35 in the whole city. So we'll be bringing back 400 or so, and everyone will have individual carts in the whole city. So we're looking forward to that rollout. And the new garbage truck in the background will help on that. There's 2 of them alike as well. So next week, we'll start our smoke testing. More easy numbers for you. If you remember some of those numbers, the water plant puts out about 300,000 gallons a day. We're taking in a heavy down rainstorm. We're taking in 2.3 million gallons of sewer. So we're hoping to find that smoking gun. That starts next week. For any of the folks, we did the mailing. I've heard 0 feedback basically, and I know Denise at City Hall has fielded some calls, so I appreciate Denise on that. But it's a non-toxic smoke. It's nothing you have to worry about. frankly, the only thing that you'll see is just maybe a little smoke coming out of your vent on your home or something like that. Or, frankly, if it's coming out in the street, we may have a problem. So we're watching that as well. Then moving on to, because all important stuff, Minnesota Power continues their LED streetlight upgrade in the city. That's going on right now. You see a couple different crews moving around. I don't remember the number of streetlights that are being switched over, but many, many streetlights. So on top of our LED projects we've done in the city, Minnesota Power is helping us on their end and doing their part and switching over our streetlights as well. At the campground, we're just about ready to switch over to Camp Life, the online reservation system. And Kathy Skurla has just been amazing for us there, helping us out in this transition. And we're going to get through that truly and hopefully soon. The electric vehicle charging stations is moving forward rapidly in the Tom and Jerry's parking lot. And more to come on that once they get, once there's a little bit of infrastructure there. The East Entrance sign is that we've spoke about before. Beautiful, beautiful sign by the beautification committee there. And that's we do have a tentative install date now of October 5th. So that is coming rapidly as well. And then out to the recycling center, I went out and visited with, I believe it was Kent or something there. Just a wonderful gentleman today. He just wanted to share that everything's been going really well. Everyone from Chisholm's been patient through their transition into the new and expanded site out there that the city of Chisholm helped out with for our recycling contract. And he just wanted to note that the little plastic containers that you would get your salad or your donut or whatever that is in the store, those aren't recyclable. They're garbage. He's had a few people that really just weren't happy with that perhaps, but that's really the only thing out there. They accept plastics and glass and cardboard and paper is separate from cardboard, like your shiny pizza boxes, things like that. So really nice folks out there. I hope everyone is okay with what's going on out there. It's been really a good relationship with Vulcan Township. So I know that's a lot, but there's a lot going on as we transition into fall here in the winter. So any questions, comments, I'm happy to help.
Council questions for Larry.
Hey, Larry. Travis here. Just a comment to go off of your plastic. So last time I was out there, there was a woman working, and she told me that when you look at the bottom of the container, anything that's numbered 5 or 6 is not recyclable. So that's what I go by now. So when you look at the little triangle, if it's got a 5 or a 6 in it, that's not recyclable.
Okay, perfect.
Larry, I got just a comment on the campground a little bit.
Sure, man.
How'd you think it went this year?
It's going really well. It's a little bit in part to the bike park, of course, and the wonderful folks there helping with a little bit of advertising on their site too. But I think it's going extremely well. Frankly, we are getting winter campers, and it kind of surprises me. I received 6 calls today, as Kathy had a home issue and wasn't able to work today. I had 6 calls today, and they're getting into this winter season. We have hunters coming. Besides the fall, the people that enjoy the leaves in the fall and that type of thing. And then we have employees that work out of town and stuff that are staying through December. So I think it's going very well. Very well.
Good. So I'd like to throw a bug out there for everyone for next year. Very gently, and I mean gently. So we have this giant museum of mining next door to it. And it's all run by volunteers, and they do a phenomenal job up there. And we want to make sure that stays intact. But I think at some point, at least I believe that as a committee, the campground committee could maybe sit down with their board or something and have a discussion on if we could use some of their property. Should we hold a bigger event in town? They've done it. They did it when the Boy Scouts were in town. But, I think with the Redhead Bike Park, we may have a few more events that they do up there where people want to camp or some tent camping and know that we could somehow use some of their area, even if we have to factor some of it into the cost of camping there. So I think it would be good to at least know how receptive they would be to that, of using that every once in a while. That's all I would say.
You know, Mayor, I appreciate that you bring that up. I actually received a call and talked to these folks. We didn't have any tent camping available, and they were not interested in a site. I said, I'll even give you the same price. We'll give you the same price, but you have electric and water for your coffee in the morning or to charge your cell phone. Nope, we're not interested. We want tent camping only. So it's funny you bring that up. And it was one call, don't get me wrong, but they were not interested in staying in the site. They wanted tent camping only. So I appreciate it.
Okay. And like I said, we don't know where things are going to go. We had a rough year here to get this thing started. And I mean, we could have a town full of bikers by next spring, when they open up. So.
Absolutely.
All right. That's all I got. Council, anything else for Larry before we move on?
Thank you.
Thank you, Larry. Fire Chief, good evening, Bob.
Good evening. Everybody hear me okay?
Yep.
Good afternoon, Honorable Mayor, Council members, City Administrator, City Attorney, fellow supervisors and the public. Been working with the township, Brad Stegar. They got the one tank that was vandalized out on the Cologne Road repaired, which was great. We're still working on one other one on Long Lake that's been leaking. Last week, we had our annual servicing done. We choose this time of year to get most of our equipment ready for the busy season. For us, tends to be more of a structure fires during the winter months. Engine 2 didn't pass last week. They're still working on getting a replacement valve. Also, we're waiting for the battery tender to come in that I think I reported at the last council meeting. Lots of moving parts in all these vehicles. Our engine 1, the foam level gauge, has to be replaced, and the bladder on the passenger seat. Our oldest truck, 32 years old, passed, which was great, but then it developed the problem this past week. We had help from Justin Olson and the city mechanic, Lenny Pahuli. They're getting a hydraulic hose replaced in that. And I'd like to announce formally tonight, I'm taking effect immediately. I'm going to be resigning as your fire chief emergency manager. I've had the past 5 weeks, 3 meetings with the mayor and the administrator. The mayor talked with Adam Lance and some of the other members, and several grievances came through with that and concerns. There's a lot of people that think, they blame me, it's my way or the highway, but there's a lot of OSHA regulations and policies and procedures in place. And some people think that they feel that when they're around me, they're walking on pins and needles, and there can be issues why that, whether it's appropriate. Where image for me of the department has always been a very big thing. I provided answers, weren't acceptable. I know there's been a lot of COVID anxiety. It's affected me tremendously. I've been complimented on being good at the administration part of it. I was a little upset that none of the senior leadership was interviewed. I was asked to just stay back and just do paperwork. Whoever's in this chair needs the full support of the council. I think it's going to be difficult going forward. My average salary for my position that I have is $13,100. The longest administrator I worked for was Dave Carlston, and one of the things he always complimented me on, he says, you make the job look easy. We're a well-respected department statewide, myself and the department. I've been a fire chief in this community over 26 years and 38 years in the fire service. 9.5 years ago, I went through a similar issue as this, and I was gone for 2.5 years, and I was asked to come back. I've been back for a little over 6 years, 6.5 months. I know when I first got back, it took me about 6 months just to get caught up with all the paperwork at that time. I was thanked by many people throughout the community for coming back and helping our community. I had a couple goals I would like to have got accomplished. Meeting, with French and Evergreen and Kinney Great Scott and Buell and Chisholm. We all run similar type departments. We were doing real well with that till this COVID stuff started. I think the workload that this position has is too much for a person that's working a full-time job. The other goal I was working towards is getting this public safety building built. My mission was always to prevent harm, survive, and be nice, try to instill in the people. I'm very proud of the safety record I had over my career, my tenure with the city. Having any major or serious injuries is great, and we've all maintained a very excellent fire rating in this community. And I have to sign off on this call when you're done with any questions, because my father took a tumble and he's on his way to Duluth. So thank you. I'll follow up with a full letter.
Thank you, Bob. Let me start. I appreciate everything you've done for me. You've been my chief for the entire 10 years that I've served as the mayor. So I have no issue with you whatsoever. We did have 3 meetings. We discussed this. I felt that the department was ready for a change, and that's a hard momentum to stop. I think you know that from past experience. So that's all I'm going to say. I think the world of you. I wish you the best, and you've done a lot of great things for this city, and that's it.
Mr. Mayor, this is Councilor Campbell. I'd like to say something.
Yep, go ahead.
Bob, you did a great job for us. I know we asked you to come back, and I appreciate everything you've done for us. You know that I've always supported you. I'm really sad that this has happened. I was unaware of all these meetings. I wish I could have been a part of them. I feel like, in a way, you're bullied your way out of here. I don't agree with it, but it is what it is. And I don't think anyone's going to be able to fill your shoes because they have no idea exactly what it entails. So we're going to miss you.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor?
Councilor,
Councilor,
go ahead.
I'm just going to echo what Tracy said, and I would like to thank you, Mr. Brown, for everything you've done for this city and continue to do and advocate for and volunteer. So thank you, Mr. Brown. Chief Brown.
Thank you.
Thank you, April. Council, anything else?
Yes, sir. So, Bob, I hold you in very high regard. You can talk all night about what you've done for the fire industry, your community, the public. Nobody is going to question where your heart and what your drive has been. But, I will say thank you very much for everything.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to say something to Chief Brown.
Go ahead, Jim.
I've always enjoyed my time at the fire department with you. When you're on vacation, when you're here, it's always been good. Thank you for everything you've done for the community over all the years. And I'm sure I'll see you around when I'm working and you're driving your side by side.
Thank you.
Yep.
And I'll be helping Chris Masucci as best I can.
Council, anything else?
Yep. Don't forget me. Chief, I'll just echo what everyone else said. Thank you. You and I have worked on projects with the school, with Kiwanis. That will be missed, and I hope that Chris will continue to do that kinds of things. But for your support for me and everything, thank you, and thank you for everything you've done for Chisholm, because you, sir, have done a lot, and I very much appreciate it.
Thank you.
Bob, thoughts and prayers from all of us to your father, too.
Thank you.
Biggest
I'd
thing
like to chime in also, if that's possible. I want to thank Chief Brown for welcoming me into my new position and helping me out for the last couple years. And he's always treated me very fairly and kindly, and he's a true professional. Thank you, Chief Brown, for everything you've done.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Thank you, Bob.
Thank you.
Library Supervisor Katie, good evening, if you're there. I think I've seen you earlier.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. Well, I was going to say that April's background is going to be a great segue, so hopefully she'll put her background back on for me. But her and her husband were planning on coming to the library in October to create wildlife feeders. Oh, there they are. Hey, April. Do you guys want to check out her background? She's got a bunch of beautiful feeders back there. Unfortunately, due to COVID, April is not going to be able to visit the library, but we're going to do take-home kits with the feeders, and they're actually made out of old tires. So reusing and recycling some old tires to make some wildlife feeders. So we'll have kits starting next week to be for people to take home and make some kits and make some bird feeders. Am I missing anything, April?
Yes, I would like to just say that this was sponsored by I think maybe you did say it, but I'll just say it. It's sponsored and paid for by the Arrowhead Library System and the Minnesota Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund. So, yes, thank you.
Yes, thank you for adding that. So looking forward to that program. That's about it for me. I have an item on the agenda with Mandy, and that's all I have.
Thank you, Katie. Chief of Police, Vern, report tonight.
Well, I'd like to address Jim Johnson saying I resemble his remarks, so it's a good thing you put me last. I don't really have a formal report. Tracy kind of covered us doing interviews. They went well. We got some good candidates to move on, and just have one thing on the agenda, so I'll keep the meeting rolling unless there's any questions of me.
Council, anything for Vern?
Mr. Mayor, I have a question for the police chief.
Go ahead, Jim.
Hey, Vern, how's it going?
Very good, Jim.
Have the Chisholm Police Department had any troubles with all this political stuff going on in town?
No, not per se anything out of the ordinary. This is a weird year with political signs. People put their political signs out and they're getting stolen or vandalized quite frequently, which is, in all the years I've worked, people are entitled to their opinion. Let them put their signs and leave them alone. It's their property. But nothing to report, Jim. It's been really good.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Vern. Rec Director Tammy, report tonight?
No report, Mayor, unless there's questions of me.
Also questions for Tammy?
Mr. Mayor, I have a question for Tammy.
Go ahead,
Yes.
Jim.
Hi, Tammy. How are you?
Good, how are you?
Good. How's the new building coming?
Well, it's coming along. They started a little bit of the construction. They're now waiting for the trusses to come in. And they did place one window incorrectly, but they're going to change that. It's not in, so it's not a big deal. The metal hasn't been put down. And then I have an item further down on the agenda regarding the skating shack.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Tammy. City Attorney report tonight, Brian?
Thank you, Mayor. No formal report. I am happy to field any questions the council may have.
Attorney, anything for the, or council, anything for the attorney? Thank you, Brian. City Administrator, Bill, report tonight?
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, just a couple of quick items. Just want to remind the community that the mail-in absentee voting has begun. Avoid the long lines at the voting booth on November 3rd and go online to minnesotavotes.org or call City Hall at 254-7900 to complete your application for your absentee mail-in ballot. It literally takes a matter of minutes to complete. Second thing, Mr. Mayor, when we get to the next item, the consent agenda, there was not a list of bills this week. Our deputy clerk has been out ill, and so there was not a check run this week. It will take place tomorrow, so there's not a list of bills that was sent out prior to the meeting. With that, I'll entertain any questions.
Mr. Mayor, I have a question for Mr. Manny.
Go ahead, April.
Mr. Manny, just a quick question for probably you and the mayor. How come the council wasn't a part of these meetings for Chief Bob Brown? How come we didn't have closed meetings or closed sessions or anything like this? So we were aware, being a part.
April, I'll answer that. First of all, I sent the entire council an email prior to the last meeting with Bob and told everybody that I had met with him 2 times and brought the concerns forward that the fire department brought forward to me and asked if anybody had any input to bring it through Bill or Brian. And I did not get any feedback. I met with Chief Brown last Monday, told him I didn't believe this is a fight that he should take if the fire department as a whole wants to move on from Chief Brown. He's 65 years old. He's done so much for this community. I felt that I'll leave it up to him, and I did leave it up to him. I told him, I don't believe this is a fight I would take if I was Chief Brown, but you're welcome to do it, and I'm not going to force you out. So this was Chief Brown's decision based on all the information that I gave to him. So, but to say that you didn't know about it, I sent out an email, and actually Adam Lance did reply to it, and the attorney replied and said, please go through myself or Bill Manny, Administrator Manny. So to say nobody knew about it would be incorrect.
Mr. Mayor, we did receive that email, yes, but we don't know the ins and outs of really the real story behind it. We only received what you sent, I'd like to know the whole story. And
Well, why didn't you ask somebody? I left the door open for you to ask Mr. Manny or the attorney.
Mr. Mayor, don't you think that it would have been...
If you have any input, you want to be part of this, let us know. And I got zero feedback. There was
Mr. Mayor?
one reply from Councillor Lance. Go ahead.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
This Councillor Campbell, I called Bob Brown and I talked to him for a good half an hour. You asked him to step aside and to let everybody else handle it. We didn't know that you did that. That would have been nice to know. I just thought you were meeting. We didn't, as far as what April said, I myself just thought you were meeting. I didn't know that it was that you were taking place, that you asked him to step aside. And that's what he said you did anyway. So, and then he said that he was going to meet on Monday with you. And so something apparently took off from there. But I don't know. I'm not happy anyway.
I would like to address the rest of the council. You want more information? I had brought some issues to our administrators, Mayor and Mr. Manny, and I did let Bob know before his meeting on Monday, I think before his second meeting, that I had intended to bring him up for review. So he chose to resign, to retire, and that's why we are here right now. He did not have to resign. He did not have to retire. He could have come before you, Councillor Felton, and you, Councillor Campbell, and talked this out, but he chose not to.
That is the story. Bill, getting back to you. You guys are in the process of reviewing applications for our truck driver position. Do you want to talk about what we might need to do there because we have such a long turnaround here?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. The committee, the heavy equipment / utility worker / truck driver, we received 45 applications, of which the committee last night scored those applications, and we will be interviewing candidates that scored highest during the application scoring process the first part of next week. And we may, I say may because as part of the interview process, one of the things you normally typically ask people is when can you start? We may want to come to the council and ask for a special meeting because this is one of the few times during the year where we have that extra week between council meetings. The next council meeting now is not until October 14th. And so to move the process along and getting these people hired, we may be approaching the council for a special meeting to recommend the hiring of a couple candidates subject to the normal pre-employment, passing the pre-employment qualifications.
Thank you, Bill. Council, anything else for the city administrator? All right, we'll move on to the consent. Hey, Bill, let me ask you a question, or maybe it's for Brian before we move on. obviously you want to be able to pay these bills that are run tomorrow. Brian, is there something we need to do with this list of bills tonight so that we're not holding up this list of bills that Eileen is going to run tomorrow? I mean, obviously we need to approve them, but maybe somehow we need to be able to bring a bill back to question it or be able, I don't know. Thoughts?
Thank you, Mayor. I would note, it's a tough situation, but I would note that we did pass a resolution at the beginning of the year which authorized Mr. Manny to make sure that our bills get paid in a timely manner so long as they're routine expenditures. And otherwise, in order to examine each individual bill, we would have to wait for the list to be published. But we could just, we could create a contingent authorization that they be paid.
All right. So we'll move on to consent agenda. This is your list of bills, communications, which are the Airport Authority minutes, Planning Commission minutes, Public Utilities Commission minutes, email to council member from Mary Inge, XL Energy 500 kV line 5702 relocation communication, minutes of the previous city council meeting, September 2nd, 2020 working session, September 9th, 2020 regular meeting, payroll and overtime. Can I get a motion to accept consent agenda?
Motion.
Lance, second for that.
Support.
Further discussion?
I have a question, Mr. Mayor.
Go ahead, Jim.
List of bills, but we don't have the bills. So can that be part of that? We can't accept them if we don't have them. So
let's do this. So the list of bills is going to get put to Bill tomorrow. Is that what you thought? As long as Eileen's doing okay?
Yes, Mayor.
Which is Thursday. We can wait till Friday, send them out. You can get the list of bills out tomorrow. Is that acceptable, Bill? We'll give the council tomorrow work day to question the list or whatever, and we'll send them out on Friday. And if there's any issue with anything, we can hold them.
That's fine, Mayor.
We'll have to try to work it out anyway.
That's fine.
Okay. So the list of bills will be contingent on that the council gets to see the list of bills before they're paid. Is that all right, Jim? All right. Any further discussion? Okay, Margaret, could you take a vote, please?
Counselor Lance.
Aye.
Counselor Fountain.
Aye.
Counselor Baki.
Aye.
Counselor Varda.
aye.
Counselor Campbell.
Aye.
Mayor Champa.
Aye. Okay, that motion passes. CARES Act funding, Bill.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, just an update. I refer you to page 18 in your packet. So based on action that has been taken to date and the spending for eligible CARES Act funding, we've committed approximately $308,000 of the $372,000 that we received. The end of last week, the architects from Architectural Resources were in looking at City Hall and the library to draw documents so that bid documents so that we could get firm bids. If you recall from the last meeting, those numbers were an estimation. We have approximately, if those estimations are close, we have approximately $63,000 of unallocated funds, and the goal would be to bring recommendation to the council at the next meeting on the allocated funds as far as spending those under the CARES Act funding guidelines. That, Mr. Mayor, to entertain any questions.
Council questions on that? Okay, we'll move on. Thank you, Bill. New business. Mandy, variance request from Kyle Larson and Lita Casey.
In your packet, you'll see a request of a variance petition from Kyle Carlson and Alita Casey. The Planning Commission met on this. We actually met via phone conference. It just ended up working out better that way so we could get a quorum for this. The commission did approve this unanimously. Letters were sent out to all adjoining property owners, and I did not receive any feedback against the petition at all. So we did have one complaint that went through a different channel, actually, but I was never informed of it. I'm not sure if the planning commissioners received any complaints regarding it, but I did not. So the commission did approve the variance unanimously, therefore I'm requesting support.
Mandy, I have a question. Where's
Sure.
the variance along the sidewalk?
It's actually the required setback for a fence is 2 feet from the property line.
Okay.
And the fence was built right directly on the property line. Therefore, it requires a variance. So they requested a 2-foot setback variance from 2 feet to 0 feet. So it is directly on the property line. The sidewalk that is there has been discussed. It may be removed. It's in pretty poor shape. I know Larry has talked to the homeowner about possibly removing that sidewalk without replacing it. So.
But that is the side where 0, where along the sidewalk, just that side?
I believe the whole perimeter, if you look at the site plan, the whole perimeter fence is on the property line.
So the fence is already built and they're asking for forgiveness? Is that what happened?
Yes, what happened was I approved a building permit for the fence. And if you look at the site plan itself, each square is 5 feet there. And it does show, I thought he was going to meet that 2-foot setback. And upon construction of the fence, it was actually found out that it was a 0-foot setback. So I approved it with a 2-foot setback administratively without the variance.
How's the council feel about this? This is a tough corner to get put in as a council. I mean,
Mayor, if I could speak for just a second, and I apologize to everybody that this is my first view of it in the council packet. Like I say, it's been very aggressive in public works lately, but I just want to note that we are responsible for plowing these alleys. And if it is in the alley, if it is on the property line of the alley, boy, we better have something in writing that if we damage the fence or something, that we are not responsible, frankly.
Yep, Larry, that was discussed at the meeting. And that will be, and actually it's not right like on the side of the alley. The alley right of way is 18 feet. So there is a couple feet of grass or I guess yardway before the fence is constructed. So.
Okay. Yeah, I have the council packet up here now on my laptop next to me, but I'm just not seeing that, but I just want it noted that maybe we prove it with that we will not be responsible for damage, because I'll be frank with you, we just approved V plows and we will be putting equal amount of snow on every side. If they haven't received snow on that side in 20 years, sorry, but there'll be snow on your side coming and we will not be responsible then.
Okay.
And Mr. Mayor, if I may.
Yes.
That was definitely one of my concerns that Larry pointed out, and on an alley, when you come down there, it's got fall off each side. So if one person has a fence on one side, all the excess is going to go off onto the other neighbor. But one thing down the alley from this, there's actually a building. I don't know when it was built or how long ago, but it's actually on their property line also. So that was kind of with our planning and zoning. Well, it's already here in this alley. Somebody's already got a house on the property line in the alley. So we didn't see too much issue putting a fence just down the block also on the property line.
Yeah, like you said, the biggest problem I see is, everybody else got to follow the rules, and the next my concern is the next person just builds a fence and says, oh, I did it wrong, and says, well, I need a variance. I mean, we're putting ourselves in a very difficult spot here.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, I don't want to shoot down my planning commission either. But I mean, this is, you get put in a pretty difficult situation here. And
I do agree. And if you would like me to send out a letter to the property owner, just having him sign off on any liability that we would have, noting that the fence is right on the property line. We
definitely need that. No question.
See, I just did get a message from the property owner because they have my number, but they just said the alley is not part of the variance. Just the avenue side.
Just the avenue. Okay.
So I think there's a little bit of...
He didn't note that in his application, so.
I think COVID is a beast, it hinders face-to-face interaction, and things kind of obviously aren't communicated properly.
Mr. Mayor?
One second, Councilor Campbell. 1 second, Councilor Campbell. Adam, so you're of the opinion that the message you just got from him is that the only variance that they had to look at was the one right along the sidewalk. Is that correct?
Yeah, I just got a message from Lita Casey saying that she's watching the council meeting and the alley is not part of the variance, just the avenue side.
Okay, well, that's a lot different. Go ahead, Councilor Campbell.
That was my question. I wanted to clarify that with Councilor Lance. So it got answered.
Mm-hmm.
I'm okay with this variance request. We got Mandy. The only thing I can do is tell you to make sure that I know back when I built my fence years ago, it was so long ago that I've taken it down. But there was a nice little handout showed a variance or the actually setbacks on everything in town that Steve used to hand out. It's probably still floating around. Maybe you have one too. But make sure when people ask about a fence, we make sure to tell them, so that they get themselves in this situation. But
with all of the fence applications that I do send out, I send out the ordinance along with it. And that was the case in this situation as well. So they did have the ordinance there. So what I'll do is contact the property owner tomorrow and have them amend their site plan and have them sign off on it, that the variance is not including the alley setback.
Okay.
Mayor, this is Jim, and I have a question or a comment regarding this.
Go ahead, Jim.
I'd like Vern to maybe chime in too. My concern would be, it looks like the fence is right up against the city sidewalk as it comes over to the alley. And my concern would be just sight distance of pedestrians on that sidewalk, seeing vehicles coming out of the alley, or vice versa, people coming out of the alley, seeing people on that sidewalk. I'm just wondering if in that corner they can put in a diagonal that, backs it away from that intersection or that corner of the alley with the sidewalk a few feet, preferably 5 feet or something like that, in order to alleviate a potential safety hazard. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I have a question for Mandy.
Go ahead, Jim.
Hi, Mandy. How are you?
I'm good.
Good. So you approved the variance with a 2-foot setback, right?
I approved the permit with a 2-foot setback. And after the fence was constructed, I received an email stating that it was actually built on the property line. It was built over the weekend. So I received the email over the weekend. So I was, I didn't do an inspection on the fence because they built it over the weekend. After I realized that they did not meet the setback, I contacted the property owner and gave them their options, either move the fence or they did not want to, or apply for a variance.
So the permit, they knew about 2 foot setback, right?
Yes.
And they decided to ignore that then?
I don't know if they decided to ignore it. I don't think it was intentional. I think sometimes it's very confusing for property owners to know where the actual property line is if they don't ask or if they don't have pins in the property. I know it's 33 feet from the middle of the road. That's where the property line starts. And that's what I explain to people when they fill out their site plan for the variance. However, the property owner, in my opinion, did not know where the property line was, apparently.
Okay, thank you.
Mandy,
quick
question. Yeah, normally when we do like what Jim Johnson said, where we put a 45-degree corner on it, that's typically street to street, isn't it? When that's done, like a corner on a block, like a street to avenue, I should say.
Street to avenue, yes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Go ahead, Councillor Lance.
What was this? Is this sidewalk that's listed in front of their house here? Is that
That's
the only
actually
sidewalk?
on the avenue side.
Or on the
front,
avenue?
yeah, the front faces 9th Street Northeast.
Right, and it doesn't even go to the street. Is there a sidewalk on the other side of the alley?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
So I believe this is the only part of the sidewalk on that whole block is right here. And I believe that's what Mandy was talking about isn't going to be here anymore. So I don't think we'll need to worry about, this sidewalk doesn't even go all the way to the street. It ends in the middle of their yard. So it's...
Okay, we beat this to death enough. If somebody wants to make a motion and accept the variance that came from the Planning Commission, we can move on.
I'll make the motion to accept the variance from the Planning and Building Commission.
Second for that item.
Support.
Support by Councillor Bakke. Further discussion? All right, Margaret, could you take a vote, please?
Counselor Lance.
Aye.
Counselor Fountain.
This is a tough decision, considering, I don't know. I'll just say aye.
Counselor Bakke.
Aye.
Counselor Varda.
Aye.
Counselor Campbell.
Aye.
Mayor Champa.
Aye. All right, that motion passes. Mandy, Range Corners change order number 1 for library re-roof project.
Yes, so the library roof is complete. There is one extension of a vent that needs to be done yet. Upon completion, there are 4 separate roofs that come off of the library there that were not included in the first bid spec by Roger Sockman. We just feel that since the project is going on right now, we really want to make sure that project is complete. And Katie might have more input on this as well. We're just asking for approval to get the last 4 small roofs off of the library roofed with the same material that was put on the whole roof.
Katie, did you have anything to add to that?
Thanks, Mandy. The only thing I would add is that we're just looking at using the rest of the grant funding to finish up this project and the matching funds. So the funds are available to finish it up.
Council? The only thing I got to say is I told Larry this earlier today, and I'll just tell everybody again, and we're going to get to Tammy a little later, and I'll tell her. We got to try to get these things at the beginning. That's all. It's tough on a council, and we look kind of stupid when we have to approve, 5,000 here, 10,000 here, 5,000 here, 10,000, even if there is money. But I can see how, like Mandy said, it was crystal clear he left them out, but why would we leave them out? So real easy to miss. And obviously we want all the roofs to match, especially if they're going to leak if they don't get it repaired. So like I said, we all need to do a better job of making sure the project is complete when we get the bid. That's all. It's everything we want to do. So, but I'll entertain a motion to allow you to get the rest of that done.
I'll make that motion.
A motion by Councillor Lockey, I believe. Was there a second there too?
I'll second it.
Councillor Varda, further discussion? Margaret, take a vote, please.
One quick question.
Go ahead.
The other companies that bid,
I didn't hear you.
Did the other companies that bid the project, did they bid the other roofs or no? So when we had all the 3 bids come out, did the other 2 that were too high, did they bid the other roofs?
They did not.
They did not. Okay.
They did not. No.
Thank you.
Councillor Lance.
Aye.
Councillor Fountain.
Aye.
Councillor Vaki.
Aye.
Councillor Varda.
Aye.
Councillor Campbell.
Aye.
Mayor Champa.
Aye. That motion passes. Thank you, Mandy. Burn gambling permit for Angel Fund fundraiser. Great group of people here.
Great group of people just looking for a motion to approve their gambling raffles, Valentini's, October 23rd through 25th. Doing a little different this year with COVID, but just looking for a motion to approve that.
Council, make the motion.
I'll make that motion, Mr. Mayor.
I'll support.
Councillor Varda by Councillor Lance. Further discussion? I'm not 100% sure how they use their money because there's different groups of angel funds, but a lot of them use their money to help people get to cancer-related appointments and stuff. So from what I know, that's a great to help those people that need the money. So there's nothing else. We will take a vote on that, Margaret.
Councillor Lance.
Aye.
Councillor Fountain.
Aye.
Councillor Vaki.
Aye.
Councillor Varda.
Aye.
Councillor Campbell.
Aye.
Mayor Champa.
Aye. Thank you, Vern. Oh, go ahead.
Just one quick question. Margaret, I think you have the original on that.
I do, Vern.
Can we get it out tomorrow for them? Because they're under a timeline with this.
Absolutely.
Group. Okay, thank you. They just asked me to make sure.
All right, moving on. Tammy, approved job description for skating rink attendants.
Yep. I'm looking to hire up to 4. Last year I had hired 3 for 1 rink. Typically, the people that we hire already have one job, and I did find times that I could not fill positions because people had to work overtime or fill in shifts at their main job. So I don't even know if I'll get 4 applications. Hopefully I'll get 10. Yes, so I am looking for you to approve the job description and that after that to do the hiring process.
I'll make the motion to approve the job description.
Okay, Councillor Varda, second for that.
Support.
Councillor Lance. Further discussion? Margaret, take a vote.
Councillor Lance.
Aye.
Councillor Fountain.
Aye.
Councillor Vaki.
Aye.
Councillor Varda.
Aye.
Councillor Campbell.
Aye.
Mayor Champa.
Aye. Okay, that motion carries. Hire up to 4 skating rink attendants with that job description. Council, you want to make a motion? We'll allow her to do that.
I'll make that motion to hire 4 rink attendants.
Okay, motion by Councillor Varda, second for that.
Support.
Councillor Lance, further discussion? Margaret?
Counselor Lance,
Aye.
Counselor Fountain,
Aye.
Counselor Baki,
Aye.
Counselor Varda,
Aye.
Counselor Campbell,
Aye.
Mayor Champa.
Aye. That motion carries. Last item under Tammy, we all got an email somewhere along the line here. I'll let Tammy explain it, but it's from the contractor about putting foam around the building and something that I don't know why it was left out originally, but we'll let Tammy explain it. Go ahead, Tammy.
We originally didn't have it in the plans, and then we had the drawings for the actual building put in, and it had it on there, but it wasn't part of the scope of the work, and I thought it was, and it wasn't. So, because after we talked to the architect that drew up the plans to the building, he says, no, that wasn't part of the scope. I thought it was already laid in there. And the insulation actually helps prevent the building from heaving. I think it would be well prudent that we do this to protect our investment.
Tammy, I don't have the email in front of me. What was the cost of that? Do you have it there?
$1,600.
Council?
I'll make a motion to pay that.
Councilor Varda, second.
Support, Mayor. Councilor Lance.
Further discussion? Margaret, could you take a vote, please?
Counselor Lance,
Aye.
Counselor Fountain,
Aye.
Counselor Baki,
Aye.
Counselor Varda,
Aye.
Counselor Campbell,
Aye.
Mayor Champa.
Aye. All right, that motion passes. Councilor Campbell, amend conflict of interest policy and statement of values.
From our last meeting that we asked Attorney Lindsay to draft this language into the conflict of interest into the statement of values. On page 35, item 1.02, item K, that was added. And the same thing with the statement of values. That same language was added under 3J, I believe. With that, I guess I'll make a motion to approve adding this language to the conflict of interest and to the statement of values.
Second.
Council discussion? I just, my only discussion is it's already state law, what's written there. So I'm going to vote against it because I don't believe it needs to be there. Council, anything else?
Brian, excuse me, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, go ahead.
Attorney Lindsay, can you chime in on this for us? How do you feel about this being included and not included?
Thank you, Counselor. It took me a minute to get my technology figured out here. The language that I've included, I mean, to a certain extent, the mayor is correct. It's a restatement of a requirement or of a standard that's set by state law. And so, from my perspective, from a legal standpoint, does it add a new legal obligation or a new legal commitment? Not really. That being said, the other side of the argument always is it never hurts to be reminded of our obligations, and it seems like that's the point or the main thrust of these documents is just to impress upon our city officials and the folks that are acting on behalf of our city to reaffirm those obligations. And so it doesn't create a new duty, but it's a reminder.
Brian, can I ask one question? Because I didn't even see it, but 3J, was that supposed to be red too? Or was it always in there? Mine's black, so under the statement of values, it's black, so I didn't even catch it on mine.
Mayor Champa, if I may, please.
Oh, yeah.
Margaret, I sent an email out explaining to you that J was to be added.
That was the one. Okay. All right. Margaret. I missed that. Council, if there's nothing else, we'll take a vote.
Counselor Lance,
Nay.
Counselor Fountain,
Aye.
Counselor Vaki,
No.
Counselor Varda,
Nay.
Counselor Campbell,
Aye.
Mayor Champa.
No. All right, that motion fails. Thank you, Tracy. We'll move on. Brian, let me ask you again now. I just kind of got a lead into this before we started. I don't believe the council is ready to accept this as a first reading. From what I'm hearing, I think we're more looking to try to find out what the law is now and get some input from you and then talk about this. So how do we present this so that we have a first discussion, and if we land all together in some spot, we can bring it back for a first reading? Or what, you got some input on that before we start talking?
I do. Thank you, Mayor. And so the language that I brought forward, there's kind of two pieces to this. The first is the kind of, for me, I'll give a short explanation of what the intent was with the change in the language that I made. And then the second, obviously, is to invite some input from the council. And so with regard to the Chisholm ordinance number 94.05, in my opinion, at least, my humble opinion, as that ordinance currently exists, there's some ambiguity in it. The application of it is not entirely clear because a lot of the language talks a lot about or sounds a lot like it's geared toward residential properties that have a dwelling unit or a residence established on them, a structure. Because a lot of the language talks about front yard spaces and rear yard spaces, things like that. And so the application to a situation like we've encountered in Chisholm recently with an undeveloped lot, and what exactly would be the application. And so what I did was I took the language that currently exists and I split it into two sections so that it clearly addresses those properties that are developed and those properties that are undeveloped, because there may be certain other restrictions or requirements or standards that the city wants to apply to those. So the second piece of it, once I separated those two portions out, the standards that applied to or would apply to the developed residential lots, I kept as they were in the existing ordinance. And so I didn't make any changes there. But when it came to undeveloped lots, I really didn't, in drafting the new language, I didn't have a lot of guidance. And so I made some assumptions or some calculated guesses about where the standards could or would be set. And that's where I'm looking for guidance, because as the council, as elected officials, it's your right to speak on what the standards or how the city of Chisholm should maintain its properties. And that's kind of what I'm looking for. Obviously, when you get to the parking of vehicles, an indication that 3 vehicles are appropriate for a standard lot, maybe we want to dial that in a little bit. Maybe we want to expand it or contract it. Maybe the council doesn't like the screening requirements that I put in. But what I'd like to see is a conversation on those points, get a little bit of guidance, and then perhaps I can bring this back for the next meeting for introduction and first reading.
Brian, I don't want to steal Travis's show on this thing because he kind of put it on here, but what I'd like to ask is this, okay? Both neighbor McKean and the owner of the property, Show, both spoke earlier. Just to get you up to, I don't know how much you know about this, but basically Lloyd Show bought some property. He needed some spots to put some of his extra trailers, for lack of a better term. I think when I drove by, they looked like they're mostly their trailers, and I think there was a pull-behind camper. The ordinance as it reads right now is, I mean, are you of the opinion Mr. Show is doing anything wrong? Or I don't know. I mean, unless we don't need to talk about the wetlands, that's a different issue. Can you buy an empty lot in Chisholm and put your trailers on it right now. If it's not adjacent to your house, or even if it is adjacent to your house. I don't know that answer. And I think that's the first one I think council needs to answer to me.
Right, Mayor.
Mr.
That. Oh,
Mr.
Go
Mayor,
ahead. Yes,
I'm looking
Council.
on page 41. It says no more than 4 vehicles per lawful dwelling. Now, that's only on a dwelling unit, but it talks about parking and storage and how it has to be shielded, unless shielded from public view by an opaque cover or fence. So it's already an ordinance. So I don't know why we have to update it again. If it's already an ordinance, we have to enforce the ordinances we have.
Yeah, Brian, talk to what Tracy just said, I guess. So, yeah, I'm just trying to find out where we're at on this right now. What's going on right now before we look at the ordinance?
Sure. And so here, this kind of highlights the parking issue, kind of highlights some of the issue that, or some of the language that gives me concern. So on a developed residential property where you've got a front yard and a backyard, the current language talks about no more than 4 vehicles per lawful dwelling unit may be parked, stored anywhere outside the residential, except otherwise permitted or required by the city because of a non-residential character. And then it talks about vehicles that are stored have to be on outside driveways or gravel parking areas. And so in an undeveloped lot, would you necessarily have a driveway or a parking area? And if you don't, and we apply these standards, everyone who just parks up on the grass or
Can't hear you, Brian.
I can hear you.
Any better now?
I think it's on his end. I can hear you fine.
Okay. So the issue becomes if you apply the standards as they exist and somebody buys an undeveloped residential lot that doesn't have a driveway and a defined parking area and parks a vehicle there, they're automatically in violation. Or you could interpret the current language to say, well, there's not a residential unit or development on this property. There's no house there. So these standards don't apply at all because we're talking about properties with driveways on them. And so
Mr. Mayor, there's a question right there, Brian, because that property is zoned residential, is it not? It's not commercial. So any property zoned residential, according to page 41 on item A, right? I mean, even though there's no building there, it's still it's zoned residential. Unless he wants to change the zoning to commercial, he shouldn't be able to park all that stuff there.
Right.
According to our ordinance.
Right, but the problem, and from my perspective, and maybe to sharpen a little bit from my point of view, is if the city were going to issue a citation for this, and the person who is cited makes a challenge in court, I have to go into court and present the case that this statute applies. And the concern that I have is a skilled defense attorney is going to make the argument that this doesn't even apply because there's no dwelling unit, and the language, at least from my perspective, gets a little bit squishy in that regard. I mean, we're talking about zoning, and I understand your point, Councilor Campbell, that the residential zoning is a very clear standard, but then we're talking about storing things in the front yards, and it gets, in my mind, from a prosecution standpoint, where my standard is beyond a reasonable doubt, it gets a little bit concerning for me because I don't want to be taking these into court, expending city resources, and find out that the court's going to declare this ordinance void for vagueness. So that's my concern.
So let me chime in, okay? Because I didn't know anything about this, and I just kind of started hearing rumblings about it. So I drove to the end of 12th Street, or almost to the end of 12th Street, and I looked at it, and I said, okay, I see some trailers. Then I drove around town, and half the houses in this town have a camper, a boat, and an ATV trailer sitting in their yards, and I'm going, we might want to proceed slowly on this one, because if this thing isn't drawn right, and like you said, all I seen when I looked, I seen a camper, I think a trailer, and then a cover trailer. I bet I could find plenty of other residences in this town that have very similar stuff in there to me. So I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but I'm saying we're encompassing way more people than Mr. Show and Mr. McKean making this decision. So that's why I kind of presented as I did that. We got to look at this, and I agree that we got to try to sort this out and see where the problems are, because like I said, I drove around. There's a lot of people with more than 3 implements in their yard right now in town, and some of them have
Mr.
big.
Mayor?
Go ahead.
Mr. Mayor? Yeah, that's probably an ordinance that we're at fault for not enforcing ourselves. I mean, that it's written there. I guess it's a gray area. So that's one thing that I guess that we need to definitely clean up is this language and decide what, because I mean, they got people to sign off on this, what is this? That we receive from, petition, I mean, apparently some people don't like it. I guess if living out in the country, that's a different story. It's your property. You can do what you want. But people live in the city of Chisholm, they want amenities. They live here for a reason. They don't want chickens. They don't want cows. They want their place to look nice, and you can't fault them for that either.
Absolutely not.
All right. Do you want me to chime in now?
Well, let me add one more thing. So, Brian, is there any difference between, let's say the city tears down the house next door to me, and I think, well, heck, that's a good place to store my 3 trailers. Is there any difference between that lot and the lot that Mr. Show is on? I know his is undeveloped, but if he works out some kind of deal with the Minnesota Department of Natural Resources, he can have that baby developed in probably a few days, and all of a sudden now it's a developed piece of property, right? So, I mean, is there a difference that it's not attached to his house, so to speak, like mine would be? Is there a difference?
And that's the question. And I mean, there's an alternative way to clarify the application of this. I mean, we could just add a phrase in the existing language and make it clear that it applies to both developed and undeveloped. And then the burden you place on residents is that if they want to park their vehicles on an undeveloped parcel, they're going to have to put on a driveway and a gravel parking area. But once they do that, then they would fall under the same criteria as currently exist with the 4 vehicles or the screening requirements.
Okay. Travis, go ahead, since I stole your show.
No, that's all right. It's good to have a good, healthy discussion about it. And that's what my email this afternoon to the council was about, is when I brought this forward, I just read the ordinance. It was brought by a community member to me. I read the ordinance. When I read it, I said, holy cow, you can interpret this 6 different ways. And I said, that's probably a problem for us if community people are going to bring it to us. So my intent when I brought it to the council and for Attorney Lindsay to review was just to try to clean up the gray area. And I think he did a good job of that. I think that one of the things we need to decide to give is a number. Like, I don't think that 5 vehicles on a residential lot is acceptable. That's just my opinion, but I think we need to define that number, and then we need to enforce that going forward. But I think that this also plays into a further issue down the line that we might have to review would be the blight, right? I mean, one of the things that bothers me is when I drive around town, I have seen at least 2 vehicles with 4 flat tires and vines growing through the engine. So, are you going to tell me that just because it's licensed, it's not blight? To me, that's blight. But if that's what the ordinance says it's allowable, then it's allowable, right? So I just think that I'm not sure that I'm comfortable even just sending Attorney Lindsay back to bring something back. I think there needs to be more input. I think it should be, Mandy, Vern, Attorney Lindsay, and maybe a couple other people who sit down and really kind of dive into it, because my intent is not to penalize Mr. Show for purchasing lots, which I'm happy he purchased them. And that's, good for the city that he purchased them. But I also don't want it to be nothing but a trailer park either. And I also don't want Mr. McKean to feel like we just ignored his petition either. So I think we can't, I want to give them both a decision. I don't think we can just do it in a split second, because it's kind of a touchy subject when you do drive around town, because if this passed tonight, half the city would get a ticket. And I wouldn't want Vern to have to deal with that.
Go ahead, Councillor Campbell. Travis,
maybe we should make a committee that we can sit, maybe Vern, Mandy, Travis, maybe something you guys can work on and bring back to the council. I don't know what your thoughts are on that.
I like it. Like I said, I think the best thing we can do is go look at how the town is using our town right now and see where the real problems are. That'd be a good thing. Like I said, I drove around, and then we have to kind of address too, it talks about a normal sized city lot or something. So, we have to figure out what that actually is. A normal city lot you think is 50 by 125 or 25 by 125. So all of a sudden somebody has 3 lots. Can they have 4 trailers? We have to, depending on how much room they have, you have to look at that too, So, Travis, would you serve on a committee with Vern and Mandy, and we'll try to figure out how we can draft this up and work with Brian and try to bring something back that doesn't over whatever our citizens, but yet we make sure we don't have neighborhood squabbles over these things like we do now.
Right. Yeah, I would definitely do that. And let me just add one more thing. I think that it's also important that we do this because there's going to be some flack no matter which way we go when we get this. But I do think that we need to set a place and then go from there. And then slowly people should, start cleaning up their yards, because there are some yards that just totally abuse this. There's no doubt about it. And and that shouldn't happen. So yes, I would serve on it.
Council, anything else?
I'll make that motion, Mr. Mayor, for form a committee with Travis, Vern, Mandy, and Attorney Lindsay, and bring something back to the council at a later date.
Okay.
Mayor, this is Jim. I'd like to serve on that. I think I have some input that might be helpful as well in terms of plating and so forth. So with your permission, I'd like to volunteer to help as well. Thank you.
I amend my motion to include Jim.
Second for Tracy's motion?
Or
I'll second.
Ordered by Councillor Lance. Further discussion?
I got a couple things real quick. I'll keep it brief. I didn't get to chime in before Councillor Campbell's motion there, but I would just like to tell everybody else in the community how important communication is between you and your neighbor. So much can be solved by working together before it gets to here. Another thing with that development over there in Show's property, to address that, I think this is exactly something that our officials should be trying to do to help him develop, between Mandy and Jim Johnson, and we should be encouraging this. I would have a question for Jim to maybe look into this in the future too, with Mandy and Lloyd. I believe there's a drainage ditch, so a lot of our rainwater is we're shuttering the water there, so we are actually creating a wetland. So I would expect that our officials can work with our city. He's a taxpayer here, so we should be working with him also to, help him use this property. It makes sense, Travis. What you did here was absolutely 100% the right thing to do. We need something that our officials and our law enforcement can hold to, and it's clear, it's black and white. So thank you very much for pushing that forward.
Council, if there's nothing else, we'll take a vote to set up that committee.
Councillor Lance.
Aye.
Councillor Fountain.
Aye.
Councillor Vaki.
Aye.
Counselor Varda,
Aye.
Counselor Campbell,
Aye.
Mayor Champa.
Aye. All right, that motion passes. Thank you, everyone. Bill, first draft of general fund budget.
Okay, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, on the agenda under me, items 1, 2, and 3 are in a way linked together. I'm going to start with the first draft of the general fund budget. So in your packet was the, probably half an inch worth of papers. And again, this is just the general fund, not the enterprise fund. So our deputy clerk, along with all our department heads, have been working hard to come up with the first draft of the 2021 budget. And so what you have, which was loose in your packet, was there's the cover page, which is the summary of each department, so to speak. And it lays out nicely there for you the actual expenditures in 2018, 2019, what the approved budget was in 2020, and currently, and I say currently because this is a first draft of the budget, what the various department heads and with numbers for payroll, for contracts that have been negotiated, the items that we know as of right now. So the following, the first page, there's the next couple pages are the revenues, and then after that are all the expenses, including payroll for next year. I'm going to spend a little bit of time here. The very first page, the cover page, tells the story of what is currently in the budget for 2021. I say currently because we all know that we have a couple months here to work on and fine tune and finalize the budget, which we normally do, with a couple working sessions or two to ask questions and go through the individual department budgets to answer any council questions. So what you have in front of you with the cover page, on the very right-hand column is the budget for expense budget for each department. And on the bottom there, you can see the total expenditures, the very first line below the grid, total expenditures of $6,050,000. Right now, the total estimated revenue is about $6.29 million. So the variance or the excess of the budgeted revenue over expenditures right now with no levy increase is about $239,000. Now, again, this is just a general fund. This does not include, and this is a very important point, this does not include any capital projects. So this $239,000 right now that is in excess on the very first draft of the budget then would go to or apply to the capital funds. So, for example, the 3rd Street Northwest project, that the majority of that now will take place next year rather than this year. That's about $1.4 million. There's estimated that we may get, $600,000 on that project. So if you take, for discussion purposes and simple math, so if you take 1.4 million, let's just say 600,000, that's going to put us 800,000 in the red. And if you take this 240,000, then that puts us at about 760,000 in the red before any levy increases. Now, again, this is a first draft of the budget. So important to explain that, because I don't want people to get too excited. The fact that this shows revenue over expenditures, this does not include any of the capital projects which have yet to be determined. Are there any questions about the first draft of the budget or what I just explained?
Yeah, how are we going to get $2 million?
What's that, Mayor?
Well, you know, every year I've ever looked at one of these, probably 10 years now, that excess at the bottom needs to be about $2 million. I don't know how we get it there, but you can't do nothing. I mean, it's just, what a frustrating thing as a council to have no money. You basically pay all the bills, you know, it's just a tough one. We got to figure out how to get our tax base up.
So if there aren't any questions on that, Mr. Mayor, again, this will be a work in progress. I mean, the council, of course, will dictate how we handle this, but in my opinion, over the months of October and November, we need to have schedule a couple working sessions, have conversations, ask questions. We have some more information, some more detail that needs to go on the individual sheets where we break out some of the expenditures a little more, and that's a work in progress right now.
Mr. Mayor, this is Councilor Campbell.
Yep, go ahead.
Can we meet in person to do these budgets, maybe at the senior center where we can all socially distance without any problems? I mean, we've been holding interviews there. People have been holding meetings there. It'd be nice to sit and talk. I mean, there's a lot to go through. Maybe when we have our meetings on these budgets, we could meet at the senior center. What are your thoughts?
Hallelujah. Yes, please.
Yeah, I would definitely meet for a face-to-face working session. Bill didn't bring it up yet, but you know, this is preliminary, but I think we have to have our levy in by what, the 30th, our preliminary. I would at least like to have a discussion. I would hope we could meet 29th or something, actually talk about, I don't know, that's just me. I mean, it's real easy to just throw a 20% out there and see how many people show up and yell at us, but we only got one at 20% last year. But I mean, it's at some point we're going to have to look. I don't know how you get stuff off this first page, but we're either raising our levy a bunch of money again, we're either cutting stuff off the front page, or we ain't doing no projects, and that's very unfortunate.
Hey, Bill, question for you.
Yes.
Right now we're not showing a deficiency. We're showing an excess of 239,000. Is that what that is?
That is correct, Councilor Campbell, but that is without any capital projects.
Okay.
Which we go ahead. Sorry.
I think Public Works should be good. We spent a lot of money on there this year. I think they can go without next year. I'm just saying. Sorry, Larry.
Yeah, I was just going to say we have that 3rd Street project hanging out there that we approved that already that burns up more than what we have left here. And we haven't even talked about anything for next year. Go ahead, Bill. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to break in. But.
No, and so, Mr. Mayor, you are correct about the levy. Regarding the question about meeting in person, I think there would need to be devised a COVID plan for that, and because with the number of people that would be involved, and I really don't, Attorney Lindsay, I don't want to put you on the spot here, but my concern is the fact that what would your opinion be, sir?
as far as holding an in-person meeting.
Yes, sir.
If we took appropriate precautions, it could be accomplished legally. We just have to make sure that we get enough safeguards in place so that we know that our council members and the public who would attend would be protected. Obviously, you're going to want to have at least the social distancing. You're probably going to want to have look at mask requirements, sanitizers, hand sanitizers on the way in, sanitize the stations before and after. It'd be a production, but I think there's a legally permissible way to do it if we're willing to jump through the hoops.
Can I comment on that?
Yep.
All right. So can't we just set up like 15-minute time slots? That way there's not even 10 people in the room at a time. I mean, nobody from the public comes, let's be honest. So, I mean, there would be the council, Bill, and then the person presenting to us.
Yeah, this is would be a working session anyway, so it would be just council and staff, who we want there. But yeah, that would work. I was thinking if we did do it at senior citizens, we could bring the council in there and everybody else could kind of hang out socially distanced over at City Hall, and we can get them in as we need them if we want to chat, kind of like you're saying, Travis. Does the council want to try to have a meeting of some form or fashion before the 30th and actually talk more in depth about this? Either that or
Well, I do.
Number out today.
I do.
Okay.
I agree. I also do.
Okay.
Let's make a COVID plan for council meetings too to be at Senior Center then.
That'd be more difficult.
I hate Zoom.
So are you thinking next Wednesday? Keep it consistent on a Wednesday then, or what? What are you looking for? Because I'll make the motion if you want it on next Wednesday, or what day you want it.
I think Bill thought that would work because I think he can either fax or email it down. Is that correct, Bill? If we got done at 8:00 or something, you could still get it down under the wire.
I'd have to double check that, Mr. Mayor. I know it's due by the 30th, so I mean, technically, the 30th ends at 11:59 p.m. 11:59 or whatever it is. So
Well, we can't take action at a working session, no.
no, it would have to be a special meeting.
Yeah.
Bill,
why don't we just make a proposed levy right now? I mean, is that what we have to do?
Well, that would, Councilor Campbell, that would be my recommendation, just based on the fact that the initial levy, we all know it can't go higher, can only go lower. Well, last year the council set it at 20%, and it ended up at 10%. In your packets on page 47 is the sheet that shows. I'd be happy to walk you through the sheet. Let everybody get to page 47 in your packet.
I think it's pretty straightforward, but
yeah, it shows. Okay, basically for each percentage increase in the levy, it's $18,129 of revenue. So if the initial levy set at 20%, it's $362,000. It's highlighted in yellow there towards the top of the page. 15%, 10%, 5%, and on down the line. What we would generate in revenue based on the levy. So again, we're all aware that the initial levy is important, but the final levy is what really matters.
Mr. Mayor,
yes, Councilor.
I'll make a motion for a 15% levy. It's just preliminary. We can go down from there, but not up.
Second for that?
Hold on, give me just a second because I need to look at this a little more.
That's $271,938 increase.
My only concern, I mean, I'm not against that number, but my only concern is we might have to land on that number. I don't know.
The actual number should be landing on 200%. I mean, I'm not against the 15% either. That's, I mean, even if we landed there, it's higher than you normally would even set a levy. But even at 15%, I don't even think we have enough to pay 3rd Street. But I'm okay with it. We'll figure it out. I know that. We're going to work hard to do it.
I'll support the motion.
Any need to meet before we start setting real budgets then?
No, Mr. Mayor, I have, well, you have to, of course, vote on this, but then there's the next part of it is the item 3, the schedule of the public hearing of truth and taxation. That also has to be in by the 30th.
Council, anything else? Levy, preliminary levy. If not, we'll vote on that.
Counselor Lance.
Aye.
Counselor Fountain.
Aye.
Counselor Baki.
Aye.
Counselor Varda.
Aye.
Counselor Campbell.
Aye.
Mayor Champa.
Aye. All right, that passes. Now, Bill is looking at scheduling a public hearing December 9th, 2020 for truth and taxation. Bill, you want to?
Yes. Mr. Mayor, and that would be during the regular council meeting. And on page 50 of your packet, this is the other form that has to go in the county by September 30th. If you note on the form that this meeting, they give you specific dates. It must be between November 25th and December 28th, and it must be after 6 p.m. And so the recommendation, our regular council meeting, the first meeting in December, this allows the taxpayers to address the council before the council sets the final levy. My recommendation is to set the public hearing for 6:01 p.m. on the night of the regularly scheduled city council meeting on Wednesday, December 9th, 2020.
Bill, how are we public? Oh, it'll be on your statement. What are you going to do? Somehow allow them to join our Zoom meeting if they want input? Or are we going to make them send a letter, or what are we doing?
Well, Mr. Mayor, we and I'm going to be reaching out to our friends at Public Access TV. On that form, if the meeting is going to be virtual, we have to provide a URL. Citizens must have the ability to comment live during the online meeting if it's held online. So I'll be working with Public Access a way to accomplish that. Otherwise, we'll need to figure out another venue or avenue to hold that meeting.
All right, Council, below.
Mr. Mayor, I'll make that motion for December 9th at 6:01 for a public hearing, and included with a meeting website URL for conducting online.
I'll second that.
A motion by Councillor Fountain, seconded by Councillor Campbell. Further discussion? Margaret, take a vote.
Counselor Lance.
Aye.
Counselor Fountain.
Aye.
Counselor Baki.
Aye.
Counselor Varda.
Aye.
Counselor Campbell.
Aye.
Mayor Champa.
Aye. Thank you, Bill. Last item under you, telephone system, city cameras, Wi-Fi.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, there are a number. This is an expenditure. I know people hear me talk about making investments. I look at this more as an investment than an expenditure. because there is a return on investment for this expenditure over the 10-year period. So what I'd like to do is on page 51, I have a rather detailed memo that I would like to walk through. What this is for the purchase of a new phone system for our city buildings, which is badly needed. It's Wi-Fi for the city buildings, which are badly needed. It's cameras for Main Street, the parks, the compost, and the campground, plus some Wi-Fi and phones at the campground. So in my description, I talk about the fact that there's a quotation for the items I just mentioned, and the first sheet on page 52. If you just flip to page 52, and on the bottom left, there are two boxes on the very bottom. There's package options. The package option on the top that totals $77,596 is for all the items I just mentioned. So the cost of those items is about $77,500. The useful life is 10 years. Our monthly savings over 5 years is $78,000. So basically, we're getting new equipment, we're getting cameras, we're getting items that we do not have. Plus, at the end of 10 years, our expenses are going to be reduced by $78,000. So in effect, this has a 5-year payback, and then we realize savings versus what we're paying now of $78,000. So this I consider to be an investment that gets us new state-of-the-art equipment, gets us cameras, which are badly needed throughout the community, and yet, as future councils talk levy, this in years 6 through 10 will be $78,000 of expense that will go away. So it could possibly make that levy less. I did check out this vendor has recently done some camera work for the city of Hibbing. I did have a conversation with their public works director about the workmanship, and they're happy with the camera installation and the work that was done there. There's approximately about a $2,000 to $3,000 electrical cost for the cameras, the cameras that would go on the streetlight poles. Those need to be wired. There's boxes that need to be wired. Probably about 16 hours worth of work at an electrician's hourly rate. So I'm estimating another $2,000 to $3,000. I know Chief Manor has been in a number of conversations with the vendor about cameras, camera locations, installation. So there's detailed proposal sheets that break everything out for you. But really, in a nutshell, to me, this is an investment. These are the types of things, in my opinion, that we need to look at. We're upgrading, we're obtaining things we don't have yet. It has a positive payback that saves us money in the future. So my recommendation is to move forward with a quotation of $77,596.28 plus, say, minimal electrical costs. For what this entails is, again, the Wi-Fi at City Hall, all the buildings, new phone system, cameras located throughout the community, the cameras at the compost site, and also for the campground, which is something new that was added to this proposal. If you flip back to page 51, in the budget this year, we had $60,200 for this expenditure. This proposal is about $17,000 over what we had budgeted. We started on this over a year ago. The campground we did not have, and the campground wasn't part of the the initial discussion, so to speak. And the campground component itself is about $6,000. So that puts us, proposed budget about 11,000 over. But I also put on the sheet, we were really fortunate this year because people ask, well, how are you going to pay for this? The bottom paragraph on my memo talks about we were very fortunate to receive revenue exceeding budget of a combined $159,000 from taconite production tax and taconite municipal aid this year. That isn't something that happens every year. My other comment that I want to make is that we had talked about starting out with maybe 12 cameras, 10 cameras, and then adding on as you go. Experience with technology tells me this, is that, first of all, as soon as we make this purchase, if you decide to move forward with this investment, it will be outdated tomorrow. That's a given. Number two is that what you buy today, if you try to next year with new technology, things may not be compatible, so it may cost more to add more cameras per se in the future. I was involved when computers first came out in the business that everybody wanted to buy the newest and latest thing out and the newest software. Well, every time you got software, you have to upgrade the hardware. And so I reached out to people and I said, well, what's the best way to handle this technology? Because I'm a firm believer in you have to control technology. You can't let it control you. And what people told me is you decide what is best for you now. You make that investment. You look at the useful life. You run the equipment over that useful life. Everything's compatible. Everything talks to itself. And then you look at what's the newest, greatest thing at that point in time. And so from experience, again, I'm looking at this as an investment. I realize it's over budget, but we have money to pay for it, and it's going to pay dividends in the long run. So that's my spiel. With that, I'll entertain any questions.
Mr. Mayor?
Sorry.
I just get the feeling Councillor Campbell wants to make this motion because she's been waiting for these cameras, but I'll turn it over.
That's exactly right. I was going to say we waited a long time. We need these cameras, so I'm going to make that motion for the $77,596.28 to include whatever electrical work is going to be needed. That's going to have to be paid separate, I guess, but it's to include that.
Fountain.
Motion was made by Councillor Campbell. Was that April? Was that you that seconded it? Okay. Council, further discussion? I'll just add to what Bill said. I'm in the technology business myself, and that's exactly what you do. You invest in technology, you live it to its life, and try to limp it along as long as you can, and then you got to just start over. So we should get a good amount of time out of this equipment. Stuff is good nowadays, so hopefully that's where we end up. So,
Mr. Mayor, one final comment. I'm always conservative on these things. I said 10 years. The vendor's saying that the useful life is a good 12 to 15 years. Anything above 10 years is a bonus. I tend to look at these things conservatively.
Margaret, could you take a vote, please?
Mr. Mayor, I have a question. I have a question for Bill.
Go ahead, Jim.
Hi, Bill. How are you tonight?
Fine, Jim.
Would it be possible? Maybe nobody else is interested in this, but I would like cameras in the cemetery too.
Vern, did you identify all the places?
I thought I did, but I thought I wrote cemetery, but maybe I didn't. But I don't remember. I don't remember if I did.
There were some issues putting them in there, and Larry and Dwayne, the guy, were looking at that. That is an add-on that we can do later. There were some issues with getting them at the actual cemetery themselves. The compost pile, in order to address that, there's two things we have to do. Either put in a much larger, taller pole to get a direct line of sight to the water tower, or put in a cellular device like a hotspot like we run in the squad, which then runs an additional monthly bill. And the proposal for you is to go with that 45-foot tower so we can get over the trees. We can't just cut the trees because they're our neighbors' trees. They're not city trees. So that can be an add-on. I put in the budget to look at increasing this next year because as we're getting the technology, this is going to be getting at the end of the year. So it'll be the same technology. We'll be able to add cameras next year under next year's budget if that's where the budget's going. And we could do that. So it is an expandable venture. This whole system is made to expand and put cameras where we feel they will be needed later. So we can do that as time goes on.
Okay, thank you, Vern.
Council, if there's nothing else, we'll take a vote on that.
Counselor Lance.
Aye.
Counselor Fountain.
Aye.
Counselor Baki.
Aye.
Counselor Varda.
Aye.
Counselor Campbell.
Aye.
Mayor Champa.
Aye. Okay, that motion passes. Thank you, Bill and Vern. Myself, resolution 0920-73, extending local emergency. Memo in there to extend it to October 14th, unless the governor ends it sooner. Quick question for Attorney Lindsay. Has your feeling changed at all about this? Should we just keep extending it because we are under a state of emergency on a state level and we can see some benefit out of this by doing it?
That's correct, Mayor. My opinion remains the same.
Council, I'd entertain a motion to extend our local emergency to October 14th, 2020, which would be our next meet, or it'd be a meeting night, or less, and unless the governor ends it sooner.
I'll make that motion.
Councilor Lance, second for that.
Support.
Councilor Vaki. Further discussion?
Mr. Mayor or City Attorney, I have a question.
Go ahead,
what
Jim.
would happen if we decided to not accept this?
I think, in my opinion, on a daily basis, we might not notice it, but I think what some of the original discussion was, some of the monies that are given out, like COVID money and stuff like that, there might be some issue on being able to even receive it. So, but I'll let Brian answer.
Okay.
That's correct, Mayor. The primary benefit is if there are funding sources that are accessible only if you have an emergency declared. The flip side of it is even though we have an emergency declared, we're only required or we're able to invoke those powers as necessary. So on a day-to-day basis, you're really not going to see the effect of it unless some emergency decision has to be made. The primary effect of having an emergency state declared is it allows you some flexibility in contracting laws in the case that we need to make some decisions quickly and enter into contracts to cover ourselves to prevent damage as a result of an emergency or in the ability to access certain types of public funding.
Okay, thank you.
Margaret, could you take a vote, please?
Counselor Lance.
Aye.
Counselor Fountain.
Aye.
Counselor Baki.
Aye.
Counselor Varda.
Aye.
Counselor Campbell.
Aye.
Mayor Champa.
Aye. Okay, that motion passes. Accept firefighter / council person Jim Varda's letter of retirement. Council, I'd entertain that motion.
I'll make that motion to accept the letter of retirement for Councilor Varda. Thank you for your service.
I'll support. Thank you, Jim.
Resignation, did I? Retirement. Motion by Councilor Vaki, seconded by Councilor Lance. Discussion. course. Jim, thank you very much.
Yep.
I can tell the pressure you were under just even being on a council. Half the time you're sitting somewhere in your truck. So I can imagine what it's like when you're trying to, get quotas and stuff for when you need to be there and trainings and stuff. I can't even imagine when you're all over the country like I am. So I could never do it with what I do either. So I certainly appreciate it. I know the people of this town appreciate all our firefighters, all our first responders. So thank you. So if there's nothing else, we'll take a vote on accepting his retirement.
Counselor Lance.
Aye.
Counselor Fong.
Aye. Thank you, Counselor Varda.
Counselor Baki.
Aye.
Counselor Varda.
Aye.
Counselor Campbell.
Thank you, Jim, for your service. Aye.
Mayor Champa.
Aye. Okay, that motion passes. Last item on the regular meeting here, accept Administrator William Manny's letter of retirement. Let me start out. I think it was about 5 weeks ago. Bill and I were sitting talking like we normally do a few times a week. And he kind of said, Mayor, I got to tell you something. He says, I see an ever increasing need for my time around my family. And he said, I don't know how long this is going to last. And, I could kind of tell that it wasn't going to be long. So it's going to be difficult, but God, I wish the best for the guy. We'll find somebody. I think we need to find somebody with the work ethic and the open door policy of Bill. And we'll have something on the agenda right away next meeting to start this process, because I think it's gonna take a little while to find somebody of Bill's quality. So, Council, I will entertain a motion to accept Bill's letter of retirement, and then I'll open it up for further discussion.
Mr. Mayor, I'll make that motion with reservations. He's going to be, it's going to be a hard one, that's for sure, to fill his shoes. Bill, you've done a great job. This is difficult for all of us. We're sure going to miss you. But I'll make the motion.
Second for Councillor Campbell's motion.
Support.
Open it up for discussion.
Thank you, Bill. Like I said, everyone echoing what you've done for the city over the past couple of years. You, it's like Luciani, Bob Brown, you teach while you're there. Obviously you're making the right decision, but selfishly we're gonna wish you were here. But we'll find somebody, if we can find somebody half as talented and patient and willing to work with everyone as you are, we'll be in good hands. So, thank you very much for everything.
Bill, Councillor Vaki here. Obviously, I echo what everyone says. For me, being with you on the EDA board, as well as working with you on projects for the city, you've taught me more than I've learned anywhere else. And I can't even express how thankful I am for that. It obviously family first, as we've all said. And again, you are one of a kind. I think that we're the luckiest city to have had you to get us where we are today. And it's without a doubt we're going to miss you. But I know that if I have a question or need, I know I can give you a call and you'll still take the time to give me that answer. So for that, thank you very much.
Anybody else before we vote?
Yeah, Bill, this is Councilor Varda. As only you and I know, I will inform the other councilors and the mayor that when we went to hire a deputy clerk, Bill applied for the job, and it was myself, Councilor Cheyenne, Mikula and Councilor Marty Halverson as the group. And I had to argue for 3 or 4 hours with those two about hiring Bill. So I'm very happy I won that argument. I didn't win many over 4 years, but I won the right one. So thank you for everything you've done, Bill.
I'd agree. You did win the right one. All right, Margaret.
Mr. Mayor?
Go ahead, Councilor Fountain.
I would just like to say Bill has been the best city administrator for the city of Chisholm, even when I worked for the city of Chisholm. You've done, like I echoed everybody else, you've done so many things. You're such a wonderful person inside and out. You're fair, reliable, you're transparent with everything. You look at all things before making a decision. You always want to make the right decision. And I respect you. And you're such a wonderful person inside and out and a wonderful man. Thank you for everything you've done and continue to do.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, before you vote.
Yep.
I would just like to thank everybody for the kind words. When I talked to everybody, I mentioned to you, this isn't goodbye. I'm going to be around for 3+ months, and I'm going to roll up my sleeve, and I'm going to do sleeves and do everything I can to make this transition as smooth as possible. And as Councilor Vaki mentioned, I'm not falling off the face of the earth come January 4th. I'll be available for questions. I'll be available to help in any way. People of the community have been so welcoming and so good to me. This council, the previous council, all my co-workers, I couldn't have asked for more. Just more. Couldn't ask for anything better. The support has been there from everybody, and I am truly grateful for everybody's understanding with me on why I made this decision. And like I said, it isn't goodbye today. I have a lot of work left to do, and I'm going to work my tail off over the next 3+ months, and I will do everything I can to help going forward. So I just wanted to thank everybody, the citizens of the community, the council, all my co-workers. Everybody's been absolutely fantastic to me, and that's what made this such a difficult decision. So thank you, everybody. Appreciate all the kind words. It's been an honor, and I'll do my best over the next 3 months. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Margaret, could you take a vote, please?
Councillor Lance.
Aye.
Councillor Fountain.
Aye.
Councillor Vaki.
Aye.
Councillor Varda.
Don't take this wrong, Bill, but nay.
Councillor Campbell.
Aye.
Mayor Champa.
Aye. That motion passes, or that acceptance passes. All right, Council, our committee, or hold on a minute. Anything miscellaneous we should be talking about?
Yeah, I have a couple of things.
Next meeting, I'll be bringing back the administrator's job description. We'll talk about it and look at posting. But go ahead, Councilor Campbell.
I think that should be a working session about how we're going to go proceed with the replacing of Bill. I think it's going to be a bigger job than you think. And also, I think we should schedule a working session on a budget, for doing a budget at the senior center with just the council, and then having the head of the departments coming in when we call them in, instead of everybody at once.
Bill, can you work on that? We'll try to do on our next council agenda. We'll set up a working session for soon after it or whatever to discuss replacing you, as well as our first real budget meeting, and try to see how we can do it kind of like Councilor Campbell laid out, where we the council meets and we try to bring staff in as needed. Maybe
sure, Mayor, I'll work hand in hand with Attorney Lindsay, because I just want to make sure I don't miss anything. I want to make sure all the bases are covered. So absolutely be happy to work on that for you.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to add something, if I could. You've been here now 2 years again. Councilor Campbell's been here 8 years. I've been here 4 years. Lance and Vaki and Valton have been here a couple years, and I would like to start to talk about raising the councilors and mayors' pay for starting with the new council. We're all doing a lot, and it's not enough.
I can tell you it's a little different nowadays.
Yep.
So I think,
I'm not in it. I'm not in it for the money though, so I'm not going to be for that.
No, I'm not either.
I think the only thing I know about it from the past is it has to be somebody that's an outgoing person has to make it, or somebody running for election. I don't know. It's one of the two. Brian, thoughts on that?
Thank you, Mayor. I think that is a good suggestion or a best practice. It gets difficult for a number of reasons if it comes internally from council members that are going to continue.
So typically it would be an outgoing person.
Okay.
Yeah. I will not have a problem doing that.
Jim, would you like to see it on a future agenda this year then?
Yes. Certainly before the end of the year. And it's budget time now, so.
Okay. Bill, note that we'll make sure we get it. And even if we discuss it during budgets and we make sure it's part of the end, it's fine.
Okay.
Yeah. One more thing, Bill and Brian. I don't know if you guys have started the contract with the school, but I'd like to get that taken care of here soon too, since we talked about it like 4 months ago.
Councilor Vaki, Attorney Lindsay did provide me with a draft. Basically what we did was take the existing contract, put it more in a more legal format. The challenge that I see with it now is with this COVID and all the restrictions and the requirements. That part of it's going to be a little bit of a challenge, but I mean, I agree. We need to have conversations, and I do have a draft that we can talk about and meet with the school. So have that on the list. So we'll move forward and see where we go with that. Okay.
Yeah, sounds good. It's just now, sports are back now. So now you're going to have football using the field. Spring sports are going to come around. So, I just think it sooner rather than later is a good thing. So thank you for that, Bill.
Okay.
Council, anything else? I just have one more item, more of a reminder than anything. Vern, are you still on right now?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
We have to try to get that meeting set up with Bill, see if we can sit down with him and just chat. I did run into the mayor and he said they're super happy with the work you guys did, but we should at least float the number and at least get them to do, I don't know if we need something from them or vice versa, but so we got it for budget time too.
I totally agree with you. And actually I had sent Ryan a email this week saying, hey, reach out to us too, so we don't forget. So
okay.
That we had a committee and stuff. So yeah, absolutely.
All right. Council, if there's nothing else, our committee that was meeting with our supervisors, our MAPE, Minnesota Association of Professional Employees, MAPE group, has come to a tentative agreement with that group. We would need to get a motion or recess to an executive session to discuss the terms of that. And then we would reopen the meeting if we're in agreement with those terms to vote on it. So there's nothing else. I would entertain a motion to recess to an executive session.
I'll make the motion to recess to a closed session.
Okay,
Support.
second. Who was that, Councilor Lance?
Councilor Varda.
Councilor Varda. Brian, do we have to vote on this?
Yeah, we should have a vote on the motion to move to closed session.
All right, Margaret.
Councilor Lance.
Aye.
Councilor Fountain.
Aye.
Councilor Vaki.
Aye.
Councilor Varda.
Aye.
Councilor Campbell.
Aye.
Mayor Champa.
Aye. Okay, so what we'll do is, obviously, council stay on the line. Bill, Brian, whatever, whoever needs to be here. We'll get everybody else cleared off the line, and then let the council know when you're ready, and we'll get started. Margaret, are you tape recording this? Do we have tape recorder, right?
We record through Zoom. Is that correct, Bill?
Well, I can record it, Margaret. I don't record all the meetings because public access is recording them, but of course they won't be in a closed session, so we'll have to record them. We'll have to record it in some form or fashion.
Okay, Bill, go get the recorder.
Yeah, you
can record it right on Zoom. You can record it right here on Zoom.
Yeah, I can record it on Zoom.
All right. So why don't we get everybody cleared out and let us know when you're ready, when all this.
Yeah. So the people that want to come back when the. Okay.
All right. So I'll reconvene the regular council meeting of September 23rd, 2020. We just came out of executive session where we discussed the MAPE contract. I believe the council is ready to make a decision on if we're going to ratify this contract or not. So that would be the motion I'd be looking for. I think we're close. So the council would like to make a motion to ratify the contract as presented in our executive session. I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make that motion here.
Second.
A motion by Councillor Lance, seconded by Councillor Fountain. Brian, should we outline the terms right now?
We could do that. Yep.
Bill, do you want to go through them? Your head here.
What was that, Mr. Mayor? You broke up on me.
Bill, could you just go through the changes to the contract as part of ratifying it, just for the public's sake?
Sure, Mr. Mayor. The changes to the contract are police chief, public works supervisor, the deputy clerk, a 5.5% increase year 1, 3% increase years 2 and 3. The library supervisor, 3% increase year 1, a 2% increase year 2, a 1% increase year 3, plus effective the date of the contract, January 1st, 2020, an additional week's vacation. There were no other adjustments or any other benefits to the contract.
Council, anything before we vote on the contract? With that, Margaret, could you take a vote, please?
Councillor Lance.
Aye.
Councillor Fountain.
Aye.
Councillor Vaki.
Aye.
Councillor Varda.
Nay.
Councillor Campbell.
Aye.
Mayor Champa.
Aye. Okay, that contract is ratified, council. I'm sure we're all about ready to go home. It's 8:30, so I'd entertain a motion to adjourn the regular meeting.
I'll make that motion to adjourn, Councillor Campbell.
Second.
Second.
Councillor Lance. All in favor, say aye.
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 Ayes.
Nay.
Meeting is.
Jim.
Have a good day, everyone.
Nay, buddy.